scholar. D.Perez is our next presenter. She is a criminal justice major and she's graduating in spring 24.
Thank you so much, Dr. Linus. As she said, my name is D.Perez, and my research is on does race, gender, and socioeconomic class affect one's attitude towards crime. My research was conducted with Dr. Lisa Holler. So in the past, there's been many explanations for why different groups of people commit crime. Although these explanations might have made sense during specific time periods, they are very outdated and can portray harsh narratives, stereotypes, and ideas about the types of people that commit crime. So we're going to go over some of the theories on why different groups of people have committed crime. I do want to note that some of these theories are somewhat interesting. So in 1949, Parsons developed the sexual theory, where he basically said because of traditional feminine ideals, women were less likely to commit crime. He said that because of this expressive role that society usually put women in, they're most likely to take care of their families, their children, the community, and their husbands. So they related more to these feelings of empathy and practice their emotional intelligence. They also stated that society usually put men and women in these roles. So while they allowed women to be emotional, they didn't really allow men to do the same thing, making them more inclined to commit crime. Now, in 1968, Haydenson created the liberation thesis, where he said that women were simply too busy to commit crime. He said that because of these stereotypical gender roles, women were either cleaning, cooking, taking care of the children, overall taking care of anyone but themselves, and they were just simply too busy to fit crime into their busy schedules. He also stated that during this time, there was this dual burden that society put women in, where besides the house and wifely duties that they had to do, they also had to hold a stereotypical job, meaning that overall they were just too busy to commit crime, so you wouldn't see women commit crime. In 1990, Dobbs and Morris developed the biological theories, where they basically stated that because men had higher levels of testosterone, that was linked to aggressiveness and they were more inclined to commit crime. They also conducted a study in 1995 where they measured the levels of testosterone in both women and male inmates, and the results showed that the inmates with the highest levels of testosterone were also the same inmates that usually would fight with parole, act aggressive and violently towards other inmates, and overall just act disorderly. In 1950, Pollack developed the chivalry thesis, where he said that women actually do commit crime, but that because of this gentlemanliness effect, the criminal justice system and law enforcement usually would protect women. For example, law enforcement not giving tickets, like not giving speeding tickets to women, but giving them to men, or the criminal justice system giving lesser charges to women for committing the same crimes as men. So moving on to socioeconomic class and crime theories. In 1964, Durkheim developed the functionalism theory, where he basically said that all classes commit crime, and there's not really a particular reason why they commit crime. He stated that society just dislikes to follow norms. In 1938, Merton developed a similar theory, but he actually stated that it was the working class that committed crime due to lack of opportunity, resources, and basic needs. He stated that this class usually committed crime to fulfill those basic needs, and they would do anything in their power to get them, even if it meant breaking the law. In 1976, Gordon developed the Marxism theory, where he described our society as a dog-eat-dog society. So basically, you have to eat or you get eaten. He stated that all classes also commit crime, and that there's not really a particular reason, except that some classes are just selfish. Moving on to race and crime theories. In 1984, Leah and Young stated that the races that mostly committed crime were those that felt marginalized and deprived by society. They stated that because there's certain races that feel discriminated by other people and society, that arises feelings of frustration, making them more inclined to commit crime. Now, in 2005, Maggie Weaver actually stated that committing crime starts at a young age, and the races that mostly commit crime also came from single-parent homes. This meant that children felt the need to commit crime due to lack of financial stability and support. During this time, they stated that the races that mostly committed crime were Hispanic, Latino, African American, and American Indian. Now, after this background, my research question is, does race, gender, and socioeconomic class impact criminal behavior. We hypothesize that there is a correlation between race, gender, social class, and crime. Now, to our methods. The way that we conducted this research is that we distributed a survey through emails, posters, and social media. This survey consisted of experiences over sex, gender, race, socioeconomic class, and crime. Now, the way that we worded these questions was very important because we worded them in a non-confrontational manner that would incline the participant to answer in an honest manner. Now, for example, we have a question over here. Have you ever hit or slapped someone? This just means, have you ever assaulted someone? Have you ever taken something that wasn't yours and kept it? This just means, have you ever stole something? After we gathered the data from the survey, we transferred that data to SPSS, which is a software that was able to analyze the data for us and make tables. But because of APA format, we actually made our own tables and we formed a conclusion. Now, the first table is over demographic of the participants. Now, this table is particularly important because it holds some of our independent variables, being sex and race. Now, as you can see, we have an odd number of female and male participants at a whopping 67 female participants and only 16 males. Now, for race, the two leading is Hispanic Latino at 51 and Caucasian at 28. We did have 2 African American, 1 Asian, and 1 Native American. Now, for gender, we had a leading of 72 at cisgender, and for age, the average was around 18 to 30. Now, the second table is the socioeconomic class of the participants. Now, this table is also important because it's your last independent variable, that being social class. Now, the way that we figured out where our participants fell on the social ladder was that we asked questions on the survey that would allow us to separate them between higher class or lower class without directly asking them where their income was. So the first question asked if they had ever attended any other private school. So private elementary, private middle school, or private high school. Now, most of our participants actually answered no to this at 67%. Now, the next question asked if they had ever been sent to any summer camps. Now, it does take money to be sent to any kind of camp. So this would also allow us to figure out where they kind of fell on that social ladder. Most participants answered never or sometimes. The rest were not that many on sometimes or always. Now, the next question asked if their family members have any degree required professions, to where again, the majority answered no at 54%. The next question is pretty similar, but it actually asks if their parents have any degree required professions, to where over half answered no at 63.9%. This let us know that most of our participants were more on the lower social class. Now, on table 3, this is the frequency of crime of the participants. These questions allowed us to know if the participants have committed any crime. Now, the first item asks if they have ever consumed alcohol before the legal drinking age, to where the majority at 66.7% answered yes. Now, this wasn't really surprising to us given that the sample was mainly college students. The next item asked if they had ever driven without a license, to where 59% answered yes. We correlated this response with social class, given that it does take money to go get your license. The next one asked, have you ever taken something that wasn't yours and kept it? So basically, have you ever stole something? More people answered yes at 57.6%. This let us know that we kind of correlated this item with social class as well, given that there might be reasons why people might steal. Have you ever consumed drugs? More people answered yes at 56.6%. Now, I do want to give a trigger warning for the last 2 questions as they are about sexual assault. Have you ever convinced someone to engage in sexual activity with you? Obviously, more people answered no, but we did have 13% of people answer yes. Have you ever offered someone alcohol or drugs to be able to engage with them in sexual activity? 2.4 answered yes, while the rest, 97.6, answered no. This let us know that the majority of our participants have committed crime. Now, our last table, this is our independent variable crossed with crime. And as a reminder, our independent variables are sex, race, and social class. Now, for sex correlated with crime, we did have a statistically significant value at 0.003. Now, what does statistically significant mean? That just means that there is a positive correlation there. The only reason that we would have a positive correlation is if it's at 0.003 actual number that we received is greater than the expected number. So again, on sex correlated with crime, we did have a positive relationship. The two items that allow us to get this relationship was sex correlated with crime. On the next one, race correlated with crime, we also had a statistically positive relationship. The two items that allow us to get this correlation was the item where it asked the race of the participant and driving without a license. We figured that more people would answer yes to this question, given that most of our participants do come from a lower social background. Now, on the last one, social class correlated with crime. We did receive two positive relationships here. The items that allow us to get this is having college-educated family correlated with driving without a license and having college-educated parents and driving without a license. So overall, we had a positive relationship with each independent variable. So, for discussion. So overall, as we saw on the table before, we had a positive relationship with each independent variable. That means all of our groups have committed crime. Now, after analyzing the data a little more closely, we did figure that more males answered yes to the crime-related questions than females, even though we had 67 females and only 16 males. We did also find out that more lower social class did answer yes to crime-related questions, but we do have to note that most of our participants did come from a lower social background. Overall, all races did say yes to crime, so meaning that our hypothesis was correct, that all of our independent variables correlated with crime. So for our limitations, some of our limitations was that we had an odd number of male and female participants, meaning that we just had a lot more females than males. If we would have had a closer number of both groups, our results could have differed. We also had a small sample. We only had 87 people take our survey. We also want to note that the geographical location was also a limitation, given that we took our sample from a more progressive area. If we would have taken our sample from a different area in Texas, the results again could have differed, and the time, we can only do so much with 8 weeks. So future research should consist of a more variety of participants, maybe a sample that doesn't involve college students. We do want to have a more variety of crime questions and possibly a higher count of participants. So I want to acknowledge St. Edward's University as well as the McNair Scholars Program for completely funding my research. I want to thank Dr. Lisa Holleran for completely guiding me and showing me everything I know. Dr. Molly Minus for always encouraging me and being an amazing director. I wanted to thank Dr. CB for actually introducing me to the McNair Scholars Program. Don't look at me, I'm gonna cry. I want to thank Dora and Corey for helping us through everything. I'm not gonna cry, it's my favorite time. And I want to thank my cohort for always supporting me. I'm now open for questions. Yeah, we would definitely consider a higher age difference just because we knew that most of our sample consisted of college students. We kind of had to focus on more realistic crime questions. Yes. Yes.
Out of all of the theories that you researched, which one, I guess, is most shocking or interesting to you?
I would say probably the one on gender and crime. Let me go to it. Okay, these. Oh, that's all. Yeah, this was really interesting. I don't believe that women don't commit crime because they're too busy. So I think this was probably the most interesting theory that we encountered. It was kind of funny. Yes.
We never look at race correlated with the driver's license question, just because when I hear someone not having a license, sometimes they leave out undocumented, and
consider those facts. I think it did correlate. Yeah, on here. Yeah, so we did consider that that could have been a reason. We know that there's a lot of undocumented people, and then whenever you have undocumented parents, because they don't have a Texas driver's license, that means you also can't get your driver's license. So we did consider that, but because of limited data, we can't actually determine the actual reasons. So we chose a more realistic option and just correlated with one of the other independent variables, that being social class. But we did definitely consider that. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any concerns that by wording your questions to maybe be less confrontational or more generalized, that you might be missing out on potential relationships with data?
You mean like misleading?
Maybe, or like creating more room for interpretation on the side of the participant. So saying like, did you go to summer camp and then relate that to SES as opposed to just asking outright like, brackets.
Yeah, so the way that we worded the questions, we just kind of wanted to make the participants a little bit more comfortable to answering like honestly, because we didn't want to full on go and ask like, where do you fall on the social ladder, and give probably like different options, like different salaries and stuff. So we did kind of want to have a variety of questions that lets them know like, yeah, every year we kind of get sent to summer camps, or yeah, I did go to like private institutions, like private elementary and all of that. So that's kind of where we figured out where we would place them on the social ladder.
Further questions?
Yes.
Which one of the theories do you think is more, or which of you are more inclined to think was true?
True. I would say probably the biological theories. I think that's over here. Yeah. I would say there's just a lot of studies that say that higher levels of testosterone are linked to aggressiveness, and that's linked to crime. There's also some theories that state that higher levels of testosterone, people that have higher levels usually struggle with like substance abuse and have like behavioral issues. There's many studies on that, so I would say maybe that's the most like realistic one, I would say, out of all of them. Yes.
From your results, was there anything that surprised you in particular?
I was surprised that there's people that answered honestly to the sexual assault questions. Obviously, that's what we want. We want people to answer honestly, but we were surprised that it was at 13%, meaning that there are several people that answered honestly to that question. Thank you so much.